What's up? I'm gonna ramble about John Morant and different kinds of pick and roll coverages and how teams have been defending him this preseason, and something I saw from the Bulls tonight that I liked in terms of defending him in the pick and roll and some pathways for improvement. So I think a logical thing is to assume that like deep drop on Ja is going to be really effective because he's not a pull up threat. But the Bulls did that early in this game, and it really doesn't work as well as you'd think. Ja is such like a runway heavy player. Like when he gets ahead of steam, it's really difficult to stop him. He will just barrel into you and draw fouls like that if he's not finishing. And because Vooch is so deep and Lonzo isn't getting over, since Ja isn't a shooter, Lonzo's not chasing aggressively. So there really is kind of no barring for Ja to not get points there because there's not like a high level rim protector. And I think on the next play, again, we see this time it's Tony Bradley who very much is kind of restricted to this deep drop, and Ja can just put pressure. And once he gets 2 feet in the paint, it's basically over. The name of the game when defending Ja needs to be like making him uncomfortable, making him change speeds and mid play, which is in my opinion like the biggest area of weakness aside from like the obvious shooting, because when he touches the paint, it's over. Clark is open here and he misses, but this is a great shot created for Ja. He commands so much defensive attention once he gets 2 feet in the paint. But before the end of the first half, the Bulls started playing more like pressure blitz pick and roll coverage on Ja, which again you'd kind of think like why blitz someone so fast and so good at dribbling and so quick. But I think it really gives him problems because he just kind of, to my eye at least, isn't that great. Changing between like fast and slow modes. Like he can obviously play fast and blaze by dudes, and I think he's getting better at playing slow, using jail floaters and stuff. But when he kind of has to mix between those two on one possession, it doesn't really work. So the Bulls are going to send Vooch out high. And this is not a spot that Ja wants to be in. Obviously, a lot of this play hedges on Caruso defending this 2v1, stunting at Jaren to kind of deter this pass, and then recovering to Bane. But Ja isn't really even looking at Jaren here. And he certainly probably isn't going to attempt this corner skip to Bane because he's just not that level of passer. And again, Ja wants to play fast here when he should be playing slower, and the Bulls can kind of swarm and force a turnover. And again, right at the beginning of the third quarter, the Bulls do a similar thing where it's not exactly like a blitz or like hard hedge like it was, but Vooch is playing a lot closer to the screen than he had been. And again, this is a time where Ja wants to play fast. He wants to explode into the hole and get into the lane. And if Vooch was a couple feet behind him, then he'd have a lot more airspace to do that. But since Vooch is close, Ja isn't really like in his slow mode, and he turns the ball over, which is again just kind of another Ja thing because the play he slows down, he pulls it out. He finds Adams on the roll, or he resets, or hits Jaren Jackson, who is white hot in this game. But obviously, this isn't gonna work if you just get split. And obviously, Vooch isn't like the greatest defender for this scheme. He works. There's obviously better guys, but that's like especially if Lonzo isn't staying attached, Ja can just split, and that is an easy bucket. It's just like more examples of how teams have been failing to defend Ja in preseason and why it's been working. That stuff worked for the Bulls. Like if you're gonna deep drop like Brook Lopez is gonna do, like Ja is too good at these hanging finishes to really do that. Because even if he's not gonna like run way up and launch into Brook Lopez, which is not the greatest idea because he's a giant human being, Ja is good enough to where he can kind of craft finish with his balance and touch around you. And again here, the Hornets are like basically playing under drop, which is something you can do against Ja, but I don't think it's that effective unless you really have incredible interior defensive personnel because of the runway he can get. And again, 2 feet inside the circle, 3 defenders converge, 5 eyes go to Ja, and Steven Adams is pretty wide open there. So just again, like in theory, it makes sense, especially when you have like a weaker defensive guard at the point of attack who isn't going to necessarily fight over, but still, like it's better to bring Nick Richards up here, have Rozier fight over, be closer at the nail, force Ja into tougher decisions, than just give him that runway and allow him to use his ridiculous explosion. And Ja is also good enough at in the intermediate game, at the slow, as I've been mentioning. The Pistons did kind of the same thing where they just underdropped basically, which is hilariously disrespectful. And the next step is obviously Ja just taking this pull up, but he's good enough to where he's hitting these little 15-foot floaters, and he's hit a good amount of 17-foot jumpers. He's too good at those to just sit back and let him do what he wants. So I definitely think being more aggressive with Ja in the pick and roll is kind of the move at the moment until he develops more counters for it and shows he can beat it, which I think, again, is as a real primary decision maker is probably, in my opinion, the next step for him. So, but he's fun, and this is just something I noticed and wanted to talk about. So.